Hey everybody, I'm Oakley at Oakley Does Everything, and today we're going to be restoring this circa 1920 Chippendale table. Stay tuned. So here we have this beautiful circa 1920s dining room table set, and I'm really excited about it. And overall, the finish on the tabletop is pretty good. What I'm going to be focusing on this video is basically getting it cleaned up and buffing some of the surface up to get rid of some of the scratches in it, as well as any other marks that we don't want in it. For the legs, it's just going to be cleaning up and tidying up. So let me show you the process I'm going to use for buffing the table surface, and I'll show you on one of the leaves that it came with. So here's the first leaf that we have for the table. I actually did the other leaf already, and just to do some experimenting, make sure that this is the process that I wanted to take in order to do this. But as you can see, it does have some scuffs in it and some dings where the wood is kind of coming apart. For the most part on this leaf, the decoration on the sides is mostly intact, just a little bit on the very end of a couple spots. So this shouldn't be too hard to correct. It will just take a lot of elbow grease, as they say. But let me show you the product that I'm going to be using to do this, because this is the first time I've used this, and so far I think it's working really well. So the products I'm going to be using is a Howard brand, and this is called Restore Finish, and this has a mahogany finish, and so I bought the Restore Finish that has mahogany coloring in it. And the way it says to use this is to use a cotton rag if for really minor things, just like some scuffing that you just want to kind of buff out. You can use that and that'll work it in and get rid of those marks. But if you have scratches or something a little bit deeper, you can actually use 4-0 steel wool and use that to basically polish it in. You will also need the Howard's Restore Shine, which is wood finish polishing compound. So when you go ahead and use the steel wool, it kind of dulls it, because when you do that, you're getting rid of the shine. You're sanding into the glossiness of it. And so what you're going to need is you're going to need a rubbing compound to lift that up out and get it back to the nice shiny surface. So that's the process. I'm going to go ahead and actually do half of this. That way you can see a before and an after, kind of what it looks like. And then we're going to go ahead and move over to the table itself and start doing that. Now, just to add a note, the Howard's is not a sponsor in any way of this video. It's just a product that I found that I never heard of, and so far I am pretty impressed with it. So I just wanted to share with everybody my results for this and how I have found it successful. So again, we're going to start with the Restore Finish. When you do this, you of course need your 4-0 steel wool. You don't need much at all. Just putting it on the cap, flipping it over, and that will be enough for right now. Because this actually goes quite a ways when using this. When you're doing it, you want to do small areas and you want to go with the wood grain, because if you do in a circular pattern, you're going to see that you're going to end up having scratches that are arched and curved, and you really don't want that. Always going with the grain, that way it blends in a little bit easier. If you're doing this, depending on the severity of your scratches, very lightly. You don't need to put a lot of pressure on this. So here we go. So up till this point, I've only used that one little dab, and from where I'm at, I can see that it's not spreading as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more to it. And so far, we've only spent a couple minutes buffing this so far with our steel wool, and we've only used 2 dabs of the Restore Finish. And so again, it goes a long ways and you don't need much of it. Now that we're kind of at a point where we're okay to stop, we're going to go ahead and wipe off the excess. We don't want it to sit on there. So I just have an old sock and I'm just going to wipe it down. And over the course of a few minutes, while this is kind of soaking in or drying off, you'll actually start to see if you got it smooth, if there's any cracks in it that you need to continue buffing. If you have a nice light source, you can use that to take a look at any spots that need a little bit more attention. So for example, you might not be able to see it on the camera, but right here, there is a little bit of a scuff still there, so I might go back and touch that up a little bit more, a little scratch right there. So a little bit more work for me to do, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Here we have, this is the half that I have not done anything yet to, and this is the half where we have used the Restore Finish with the steel wool. So far, it's looking good. Now if we get a little bit closer, maybe we can pick it up, but you can see these faint cracks that run throughout it, just around this light area. That's kind of normal. I don't want to go too deep into that because if I do, I might accidentally go through the varnish or the polyurethane, whatever this ends up being. So I'm actually okay with that. And the other leaf that I polished, you don't actually see those in the light. So at this point, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the polishing compound. With the polishing compound, you wanna make sure to shake it up really, really well. And you're going to apply this with some buffing pads. So I have these are used for like car polishing. I'm going to use these for this instead. But we do want to make sure this is good and shook up because I was using it and didn't shake it up for a little while and I noticed that it wasn't as consistent throughout. So make sure you shake this every couple minutes because it will settle on you. And I do have a little handle thing so that makes it a little easier to do this with. And so what you're going to do is you can actually apply this onto the wood or onto your pad, and you're going to start in circular motions, and when you're about done with it, then you're going to be back to the moving with the grain. That way it just kind of blends everything in. I like to just go ahead and put this on the pad like I did with the steel wool with the Restore Finish. And with the Restore Finish, do not apply it directly to the wood. Apply it to whatever you're buffing with. So here I'm going to go ahead and apply this to my pad. And this you'll use a little bit more of, so you can make a few spots on it. And this does have a pale brown consistency to it. So if you see that it's starting to thin out, make sure to shake your can. So we're gonna start in circular patterns, like I said. Focusing on one area, I like to do just across an area and then just kind of move my way down. And then eventually after you're doing this for a couple minutes, then you want to go and move into the straight with the grain, and you'll see me do that in a little bit, but for right now I'll be doing circular, and now we'll start the time lapse. Alright, so we've done our first polishing for this side. As you can see, it does look pretty good in the camera, and it already has a pretty decent shine, but what you can't see is that there is a bit of a film that's on here. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna take an old t-shirt, which I have over here, and I'm just gonna like buff that off and clean it. I will go back later and apply a lemon oil over top of it just to kind of finalize it and seal up everything. There's a possibility if I wipe this off and I don't like exactly how it looks, I may buff it over again just to get the desired high gloss that I'm looking for. For right now, I'm gonna go ahead and buff it off. All right, so what I just did off camera is I actually took some of this Formby's lemon oil and went and wiped off the side that I polished. And this is something that I use when I cleaned and restored the grand piano, and I tell you what, just having the smell of it takes me back to working on that project. It was pretty amazing. If you haven't watched that video, please go check it out. There's a whole series on it, and I would appreciate it if you looked at that as well. But this really helped a lot. I didn't really have to go back and scrub really hard. I just take a little bit, squirt it on this. This is an old towel, and I just kind of wiped it down, and it gave a really nice glossy finish to it, and I'm pretty pleased with that. I did not do that to the other one, but I will be going back and doing that just because it just does so much to it. So let me show you a comparison because it is kind of hard to see. Here you can kind of see a reflection, and here it's really faded. Let's bring the camera a little closer and see if you can see a difference. All right, so this is the side that hasn't had anything done to it yet. And this is the side that has been cleaned. Very reflective, it's got a really high gloss to it. And let's see what it looks like with that light shining into it. I do see some streaks in the crack, but let's see what you guys notice. All right, so there, you can definitely tell that it's dirty, and if we bring that over here, and get a little closer, what that is, are those cracks I was kind of telling you that was in the varnish that I didn't really want to go too far with, just because if we get to that to being super smooth, we will accidentally go through the varnish or the polyurethane, whatever it is, and I don't want to do that, so that's okay. You only see that if you really find a light and glare into it, but I'd say that looks really, really nice. So we're going to go ahead and do that same process over here. Let's see what it looks like without the tape. Oh yeah, you can see the line there. So cool. All right, let's go ahead and do that side now. Well, there you have it. I have the second leaf all the way done, and it does have a very nice gloss to it. It is much cleaner than it was before. You can see my reflection in it. There is still some cloudiness to it. I don't really know what else to do with it. I have buffed it with both my lemon oil, a t-shirt, so on and so forth, just to try and get some of that cloudiness out of it. And what I mean is, you know, if you get close, you can see it. And if we take the light out of it all completely, you don't see anything at all. Just a really nice looking table leaf. Now the other thing I was really excited about is over here, this spot and this spot right here. These were both kind of a yellowish color, kind of like the natural wood color itself. And with the Restore finish, it actually has some of the mahogany stain in it, and so what I think it did is it colored that so that it matched this better, and so now you can't even tell that that was yellow. Very cool that it did that. And so yeah, overall I'm very pleased, and now we are going to move on to the main body of the table. Alright, here is our table. This half is done and this half still needs to be done. Now you can clearly see a difference in sides here. That's the side that still needs to be done, and that is the side that is done. And it is a little bit blurry. It's still got a little bit of a, I don't know, it's just a sheen from the oil, I think, but at least it's not streaky and scratchy like that is. You can see the difference there. So that's one side done. Now I just need to do that side. Alright, so all of the table surface is done, and as you can see, it's got a nice shine to it, and I'm very pleased with how it's coming along. Now for the sides of the table, I'm just going to go ahead and take that same Restore finish and put it on a piece of cloth. In this case, I have old socks that I've been using. I'm just going to rub it into that and then wipe off the excess and go around and apply some lemon oil to the side as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then after we're done doing that, we can move on to the legs. Now we're moving on to the pedestals for our table, and these are pretty dirty, so we need some fine scrubbing to get these up to where they need to be. And also, with these as opposed to the tabletop, this has a lot of carving in it and a lot of crevices that we can't necessarily get to with steel wool. So the process for these is going to be different than what we did for the table. So I'm going to be taking some warm soapy water. I'm going to be scrubbing the carvings with a toothbrush just so I can get into all the nooks and crannies with it. And as soon as I'm done with that, I'm going to take a rag and then just wipe it off so it doesn't soak in the water. Once we're done doing that, we'll go ahead and apply the same Restore finish to the pedestals as well, except we're only going to be applying it with a rag, or in my case, a sock. And I'll just kind of fill in some of the chips, polish it up a little bit, and then looking pretty good. So on with the toothbrush and get to cleaning. first pedestal done. It is looking very nice. I'm very pleased with how well it turned out. Got rid of a lot of those dirty looking spots with using the toothbrush and soapy water as well as the Restore finish to fill in some of those spots. And again, just very pleased with how this turned out. I'm gonna go ahead and start working on the second pedestal now, but I'm gonna do that off camera. So there it is in its grimy state right now. We'll go ahead and do some work on it. It's going to be the same process as the first one, so I don't think I need to show it to you. So the pedestals are done and looking amazing. I'm very happy with how they turned out. Now the only thing left to do is reattach them to the tabletop and put it where it's going to be living. So here we have all three pieces of the table, and all we need to do now is secure them, and to do that we're going to be using 2.5-inch wood screws and get this in its final resting place, flip it over, and have it looking good. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I very much appreciate it. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to the channel. I very much appreciate it. That button is right there in the middle of your screen. And if you're interested in watching more content like this restoration project, I have some playlists and other videos queued up for you right there. Other than that, have a great day. Bye.